News Prime.
Hello and welcome to the most comprehensive 2 hours of television news in Ghana. My name is Israelite. Tonight on Joy News Prime, President Mahama, for the second time in as many days, responds to allegations he may have been corrupted by his acceptance of a Ford vehicle from a Burkinabe contractor. Joy News checks have meanwhile revealed portions of the Dodi-Pepeso stretch of the Eastern Corridor Road constructed by the said Burkinabe contractor has begun to deteriorate barely 2 months after President Mahama had praised the quality of the work done. Supreme Court affirms its earlier ruling on the deletion of NHIS registrants from the voters' register and orders the Electoral Commission to furnish it with a full list of those persons in 6 days.
And in business tonight, Public Interest Accountability Committee justifies over expenditure of BNPC's 2015 budget as highlighted in PIAC's annual report on petroleum receipts and allocations.
That's your business will be up in about 30 minutes. We'll also have the latest in sports, entertainment, international news, and Joy News Interactive in this 2-hour bulletin, also available across Europe on ABN Television. Stay tuned. Management of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has appealed to Parliament to assist it retrieve its lands it says have been taken over by encroachers with implications for the authority's operations. It has, however, downplayed claims by its staff that there could be plane crashes because of the encroachment of the said lands. The authority's managers made the appeal when the Select Committee on Roads and Transport visited to assess the seriousness of the situation.
The GCAA staff in a press release on Monday, June 20, had warned of possible plane crashes if lands which were forcefully taken from them are not released for the installation of essential communication equipment. Whilst accusing the Esra Kufuor administration of taking over a significant portion of the land at Isla Wireless Monitoring Station, the statement from the staff also cited the present NDC regime of giving out the land at La Nkwantanan near Adenta for the development of other infrastructure which had nothing to do with the purpose for which the land was acquired. They argue that they needed to install on that land a critical equipment for communication, surveillance and other navigational aids, which equipment they say is currently locked up, having been acquired at a cost more than 600,000 euros. In his brief to the Parliamentary Select Committee, the Director General of the GCAA, Engineer Simon Alote, explained, though the return of the lands is critical, the safety of the airspace has not been compromised. He said the encroached lands are needed to build the newest radio transmission technology to change the old infrastructure to bring it in conformity with the international standards.
It's not like we don't even have a HF system already in place. The objective is to eventually replace the current system with a more modern one. So it's not really an issue. Our preferred site for the installation would have been the Nkwantanan lands. That's the preferred, and it will eventually be installed. Like I said, I need your support. The Lands Commission, the Ministry, I think the Ministry of Lands are also working on it to make sure we can have access to lands for that installation. Having said that, please listen carefully. The current system, it's working. The current HF system, it's working. But our strategy, as always, is not to wait for the equipment to break down completely before you think of replacement. As the equipment gets to the end of its useful lifetime, we do the installation. Because I mentioned about the VHF radios we replaced, not because they were defective, but because they were getting to the end of their useful lifetime, we replaced them.
The committee's chairman, Tete Chai, assured Parliament will do all in its power to ensure the GCAA gets the land it needs for enhancement of the airspace.
You know, people were alleging
that they had problems with installation of equipment because of these land issues. Yes, that challenge is there. But as to whether that is affecting their operations, they've also come to allay the fears of the general public that no, the equipment that they have now are adequate. All what they want to do is to ensure that they bring in innovation to enhance the process. So if these challenges are there, yes, it will hamper some of these developments. And as quickly as possible, we need to. So as a committee, what we'll do is to liaise with the Land Commission to see how best those lands can be secured within the shortest possible times.
The committee members then toured the authorities' premises to get first-hand information on the status of its equipment.
President John Mahama has for the second time in as many days responded to allegations he may have been corrupted by his acceptance of a Ford vehicle from a Burkinabe contractor. The latest reaction at a meeting with the clergy at the Flagstaff House on Thursday comes barely 24 hours after he had dismissed as baseless and politically motivated the allegations made against him. 3 petitions have already been filed asking the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice to investigate the president for accepting the vehicle because the petitioners believe it contravenes the 1992 Constitution. The opposition New Patriotic Party has also directed its members of parliament to begin processes to cause a bipartisan probe into the matter. But the president says he's never been a fan of American vehicles and that he rather prefers Japanese cars.
Recently, there's the issue of a Ford Expedition. I've never been under the illusion that that vehicle was a gift to the state, and it's never been used for my personal comfort. In any case, I don't use Ford. I don't like American cars. I use Japanese cars. Toyota is my car. It's a matter for the Commission on Human Rights. I hear there's a petition there who appropriately will respond to it.
Now, in another development, Joy News checks have shown that portions of the Dodo-Pepesu stretch of the Eastern Corridor Road, highly praised by President Mahama at its commissioning, has developed potholes barely 2 months after the president's comments. President Mahama had lauded the Burkinabe contractor Jibril Kanazoe for the quality of the road, citing it as an example that must be emulated by other contractors.
I also want to take the opportunity to thank Meshes Umaru Kanazoe Contractors Limited of Burkina Faso for the very high quality of work they have done on this stretch of road. As I said, perhaps this is one of the best quality roads in Ghana today.
Our Joy News correspondent Mauli Yevu Agbi, who toured the stretch, explains portions are already giving way.
The road from Dodo-Pepesu towards Nkwanta, that particular stretch, Dodo-Pepesu to Nkwanta, it's a 46.4 kilometers stretch of road.
Okay.
However, right from Dodo-Pepesu, it looks like a very laid out road with very well marked out. However, the stretch between 2 villages called Kanchakra and Badago, this is where the spots of potholes are developing, and I'm told that this has been a major spot that a lot of vehicles got stuck in even before the road was constructed. And at this spot, when you get to the spot, you'll see cracks on the road, of the bitumen surfacing of the road. You would see that the red gravel that is supposed to be beneath the bitumen surfacing is showing at parts of the road because the bitumen surfacing is being washed off or is peeling off. And about 500 meters wide of road has been affected by this developing potholes. And the fear of the drivers in Nkwanta is that in the night, part of it stripped off and was beginning to form molds on the road. And so if you're driving in the night, you don't watch very carefully and you bump into that particular spot, you're likely to to be to get off the road.
Now, the DCE for Nkwanta South Alfred Kofi Wukanye is also unhappy about the state of the road. He says he has reported it to the regional minister.
That a portion of the new constructed road between Betago and Kanchiakra was peeling off.
I said it was peeling off, and then I reported to the regional minister. We called the highway engineer, and they told me the term is that the road is briefing, so they will come, study it, and then work on it. So that spot has been a very bad spot. When the road was not constructed, travelers get stranded at the place because it was very muddy and waterlogging place, and so a serious work should be done, or a serious engineering work should be done on the place, and then correct it once and for all.
Drivers who fly the road and local authorities are equally unhappy with the state of the road.
It worries me because the road is a new road, and secondly, sometimes we use the road in the night. So if the potholes become bigger, it will disturb our driving, and it will not make our journey flexible, both the drivers and the passengers.
But currently, how is it worrying you? When you reach that spot, it's a new road.
It's a new road, and that place is, let me say, one way. But we have to slow before passing there. And if maybe there is any danger, you can speed off because of the nature of the road currently.
Only thing I'll talk about the road, because the road, they just do the road is not any longer. Just I think they left this road like I don't think it got 3 months or 4 months. The road starts spoiling, and these big trucks are passing here. So we beg them to go and do that place for us.
You're watching Joy News. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. And going back to the story on the vehicle given to the President Mahama, the Progressive People's Party has filed an official petition over the President gift saga. The national chairman of the party, Nia Lutebru Hammond, says the party chose to go to the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice because it is convinced whatever transpired between the president and the contractor must be investigated. The PPP, in its relief, sought to establish that the car gift from the Burkinabe contractor Jibril Kanazoe was given with the intent to corrupt President John Mahama, and that the president, in receiving same, knowing very well that was the intended purpose. Joy News' Favor Nunu followed the delegation to Sharjah and filed the following report.
The Progressive People's Party presented a petition to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, calling for an investigation into the fourth expedition gift received by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama from Burkinabe contractor Jibril Kanazoe. The delegation, led by the national chairman Nia Lutebru Hammond, contend that the car gift amounts to corruption for which both parties were privy to.
And we believe that this transaction that took place between the contractor and the President of the Republic of Ghana was not transparent and must be accountable to the people of Ghana. We believe that the gift was intended to corrupt the President. Well, we will expect that Sharjah will interpret the Constitution appropriately. And as they see it, we will then move on with it. If they find that truly the president was corrupted by accepting the gift, it will require an impeachment. And when we get there, we will cross that bridge.
He argues that taxes on the car have been underdeclared as it was registered as a second-hand vehicle, although records show that the Ford Expedition gift was a brand new vehicle.
The accompanying letter from the embassy, from the Burkina Faso embassy, Ghana embassy in Burkina Faso, indicated that it was a brand new car, or gave the impression that it was a brand new car that was being given as a gift to the president. This is what the Shraj will be able to determine. Where is the vehicle? When was the vehicle?
The Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to furnish it with the full list of persons who registered with the National Health Insurance Scheme card as a form of identification in 6 days. The order follows the return of former PNC youth organizer Abu Ramadan to court to seek clarity on the Apex Court's May 5, 2016 judgment regarding the removal of qualified persons on the voters or unqualified persons on the voters register.
Different interpretations had been put to the Supreme Court ruling, especially regarding the deletion of NHIS registrants, with the Electoral Commission adopting a stance very much at odds with the understanding given to the ruling by the plaintiffs. Not even the unconventional attempt to interpret the ruling by one of the justices who presided over the case, Justice Jones Doche, would rest the debate.
I don't want to interpret the judgment, but as you claim you heard it, the Supreme Court was quite forthright and clear that the use of the NHIS cards is unconstitutional because the criteria for the NHIS card was not based on Ghanaian citizenship but only on residence in Ghana. So any foreigner who is resident in Ghana for 6 months and more can register under the NHIS cards. That was the basis upon our decision in 2014. And the recent one, we said the use of the NHIS cards is therefore unconstitutional. They should take the opportunity to clean the register of those undesirable persons. Therefore, we also did not want to disenfranchise anybody. So the Supreme Court went on to say anybody who will be affected by that exercise must be given the opportunity to register according to the law and the Constitution. The period. That's it.
And the EC is saying that's not the correct the instruction from
as I said, I don't want to interpret the judgment. If anybody is aggrieved, then they should come back to the court.
The 5-member panel who sat on the case on Thursday is, however, hopeful the step it has taken will bring closure to the matter. The Electoral Commission was also ordered to provide the court with a detailed plan on how they were going to carry out the deletion and re-registration of the people who registered with the NHIS cards, and warned it will not allow the Commission to plunge the country into chaos. The visibly unhappy panel of justices, presided over by the Chief Justice, Georgina Theodora Wood, indicated its displeasure over what it termed the lackadaisical attitude of the EC in complying with its orders in the Abu Ramadan suit. The EC, which appears to have understood the ruling of the Supreme Court differently on the deletion of NHIS card registrants, had said the names would be deleted using existing procedures.
Another news, proposed amendments to temporarily ban the mobile money service until a substantive law is fashioned out by the Bank of Ghana was shut down in Parliament on Thursday because of its relevance to a bill before the consideration of the House. Member of Parliament for New Jabing South, Dr. Michael Sibiya, sought to amend the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Bill to include a clause to ban the mobile money service undertaken by telecommunication companies until the Finance Minister enacts relevant laws to regulate the sector. But the relevance of the proposed amendment to the bill forced the Speaker to rule against the motion.
It will be inconsistent with what the House has decided on, and to that extent, Standing Order, the amendment is inconsistent with Standing Order 128 4A and B, 4A and B, because the House, it will be inconsistent with earlier decisions taken by the House. So should have filed the amendment at the point, if you want to canvass that point, then should have injected the e-money transaction earlier in the bill, but we are limiting ourselves to the banks and I'm saying that if you look at 128A, 4A and B, we cannot allow this amendment to be taken. That is the point I am making. Now you are raising issues and all those things. Indeed, where we have reached now is too late in the day to go to where we want to go to. We are on regulations. And nowhere in the bill did they make clause specifically mention e-money. We are making law, and sanctity of the law is a hallmark of a good law. Then all of a sudden, under regulation, we are bringing e-money. So let's look for the proper law that governs these issues, and then we can then ask the Bank of Ghana, Minister of Finance, to come with that legislation. If they are not coming, let Parliament, as Parliament that is concerned, initiate a process, and if it's not contrary to Article 108 of the Constitution, and yes, a special deposit taking, and therefore to allow you now, as regulations call on, to import it and put it in it, will be inconsistent with earlier decisions of the House.
Both sides of the House eventually reached a general consensus on the amendment.
The important thing is that whether you have huge volumes of, transactions which are e-transactions, then you should be calling for a substantive law that will deal with the issue comprehensively. You don't come after the bill has been considered up to this point and introduce, a line when there is no reference to it in the bill.
Currently, Bank of Ghana is dealing with the issue through guidelines that they have issued. Any other specialized deposit taking institution, any other, I think this can be considered under that, because it is a deposit taking venture to the tune of billions of cedis, and so Bank of Ghana should take advantage of that and deal with it.
Mr. Speaker, the concerns expressed by my colleagues are valid. However, I believe that transaction is not a deposit-taking transaction as envisaged under this Act.
Deputy Finance Minister Atukasi Oforson is meanwhile assuring the Bank of Ghana is in the process of revising the Electronic Payment System Act 2003 to properly regulate the mobile money services.
The amendment to regulation under this act may not be appropriate. So, Chairman, they may not be appropriate because I'm aware that currently the central bank has issued a guideline called the Dedicated Electronic Money Issuers Guidelines, issued under the Payment Systems Act 2003. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, the guideline is currently being implemented. It is on Bank of Ghana's website as we speak. Mr. Speaker, also I'm aware that the central bank is revising this guideline, and they are on their way to this house. The central bank is working with the Ministry of Finance to present a regulation under the Electronic Payment Systems Act 2003, Act 663. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't think it will be appropriate under this act, but rather may be appropriate under the Electronic Payment Systems Act 2003.
Dr. Marcus Ibeye tells Joy News they will pile pressure on government to ensure speedy presentation of the Act to Parliament.
Clearly from the debate, it has generated interest. All that we sought to do was to bring regulations, for the Bank of Ghana to bring regulations to the House to regulate the operations of e-money businesses. That's all. And the Speaker, members who spoke, all agreed that it's an avenue that has to, it's a business that has to be regulated. So the Minister of Finance has assured that through the Payment Systems Act, they will come and submit regulations to Parliament to govern the activity activities of e-money businesses. So we wait, but as we wait, we'll keep on asking the questions, and I expect them to do as they have stated, so that they will come with regulations to cover e-money business.
So your proposal was shot down on grounds of fancy or on relevance?
Yeah. Yes.
Saying that this part, the bill and the constitution has no room for this particular issue.
Said all throughout this bill, we had not mentioned e-money business anywhere. So we couldn't bring this by way of regulations when we're considering regulations. So if we had mentioned it earlier on in the bill, then it would have had space here. So it belongs to the payment systems and then the Electronics Communications Act. And so I think with assurances given by the Deputy Minister of Finance, proper regulations will be brought to the House to govern the activities, operations of e-money business.
Does the admission by the Deputy Finance suggest that, as we stand now, mobile money service is a naked institution that needs some regulation?
It is not. There are administrative guidelines issued by the Bank of Ghana that governs mobile money operations, but it is not sufficient. It can't bite. Okay, as we speak, when I send money by mobile money, I pay charges. The recipient is not supposed to pay charges. He also pays charges. There are a lot of gray areas in the guidelines issued by the Bank of Ghana. Proper regulations will firm the activities up and bring some sanity into the operations of mobile money services.
Watching Joy News Prime, we're taking a break, but still to come in the bulletin. The vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has enumerated a number of ideas he believes could help propel Ghana into economic prosperity. We'll be back with more. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. The vice presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has enumerated a number of ideas he believes could help propel Ghana into economic prosperity. Speaking at the Freedom Forum series, Dr. Bawumia mentioned the mechanization of agriculture, sustainable energy supply, and the formalization of the informal sector for better revenue collection among the initiatives he believes could help transform the country. He also criticized government's borrowing, insisting the funds have not been put to good use. Jennifer Kwama was there and filed this report.
Speaking under the theme Tackling Africa's High Unemployment, the vice presidential candidate examined the ways that the current government has failed to reduce the burden of youth unemployment in the country. Dr. Bawumia expressed dissatisfaction with the establishment of the Komenda Sugar Factory, saying if the government had a real understanding of financial principles, they could have negotiated the $40 billion borrowed over the past 7 years to build thousands of factories.
If you cannot even understand how much money you have borrowed, how can you manage the money? I mean, you don't have a sense of how much money you have borrowed. How can you manage it? And so, I've put this thing out, and I've even given them tables to show how you get to 40 billion. And they looked at it and said, no, we haven't borrowed 40 billion. It's mind-boggling. But these are the people managing our economies. And you cannot understand simple facts like this. How do you even go to the more complicated fact of creating jobs? Our government, for example, was beating its chest a few weeks ago that it has established a sugar factory of $35 million. Meanwhile, you've borrowed some $40 billion. You could have established 1,000 of such factories. 1,000 of such factories. 1,142 to be precise, of such factories. But you've only, after borrowing $40 billion, you are trying to beat your chest for borrowing $35 billion to set up a factory. It's sort of, if you look at $40 billion, and I gave you $40 billion to spend in any African economy, you will have to see transformation.
On the agriculture sector, Dr. Bawumia stressed that its modernization would result in reduced unemployment and build national food security.
We should definitely be focusing on improving the productivity in agriculture. And improving the productivity in agriculture, we have to understand that agriculture is highly technologically driven these days. So if you are going to play a competitive game in agriculture, if you come onto the field of play and your opponents are riding tractors and combine harvesters, and you come with hoes and cutlasses to play that game, you are not going to go very far. You will not go very far. The tractors and combine harvesters will just keep scoring you the goals. You can't go far. You will end up having to be importing food from them. And many countries honestly see the food security as a national security issue. And this is why what you have in the EU, for example, and they will give all these subsidies, Japan the same, China the same. You've got to focus on agriculture, and that is where you can create the surplus that goes into industrialization and value addition and so on.
He also noted that the recent energy crisis shrank the country's economy, and the government's methods, he says, are doing little to improve the fate of the business sector.
Today, we are told that the energy problem has been solved to some extent, but now the problem is that people cannot afford the cost of power. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But why is the cost of power in Ghana so high? Let's compare ours to Cote d'Ivoire. Residential consumers in Ghana are paying 19 cents per kilowatt hour. 19 cents. Residential consumers in Cote d'Ivoire are paying 9 cents per kilowatt hour. When you look at commercial consumers in Cote d'Ivoire, they are paying 13 cents per kilowatt hour. In Ghana, we are paying 32 cents per kilowatt hour. I mean, you cannot compete. So why is it that we are putting so much taxes on electricity consumers? A lot of the increase in the cost is because government is looking for revenue to be able to pay that interest on the borrowing that they have undertaken. And so they found the poor electricity consumer as the place to go and put taxes. So the taxes on electricity consumption are killing businesses, literally killing businesses. And a lot of businesses are moving to other places. And we have to therefore be very careful on this matter.
Dr. Bawumia spoke during the Freedom Forum, which was organized by the NPP Youth Wing in collaboration with the International Young Democratic Union and the Democratic Union of Africa.
A break after which we'll bring you international news. Welcome to Joy News. Prime time for a recap of our top stories. President Mahama, for the second time in as many days, has responded to allegations he may have been corrupted by his acceptance of a Ford vehicle from a Burkinabe contractor. He says he personally isn't into American cars but prefers Japanese cars. Joy News checks have meanwhile revealed portions of the Dodo Pepeso stretch of the Eastern Corridor Road constructed by the said Burkinabe contractor has begun to deteriorate barely 2 months after President Mahama had praised the quality of work done there. The Supreme Court has affirmed its earlier ruling on the deletion of NHIS registrants from the voters' register and ordered the Electoral Commission to furnish it with a full list of those persons in 6 days. In business, Public Interest Accountability Committee justifies over expenditure of GNPC's 2015 budget as highlighted in its annual report on petroleum receipts and allocations. Now, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan has been addressing the CDD, its 12th Krontini Akwamu lecture here in Accra. This year, the flagship program features the Nobel laureate. The lecture on the topic credible and peaceful elections, a prerequisite for Africa's progress, has already been delivered, but we're bringing you excerpts of that lecture. Let's listen.
I thought we had all understood and accepted that democracy is, to quote Winston Churchill, the worst form of government except for all the others. I'm afraid those hopeful, exciting days are behind. Today, one hears more and more politicians and pundits, as well as ordinary people, speak about shortcomings of democracy and the need for more authoritative leadership. The problem is that authoritative leadership can be a slippery slope towards authoritarian leadership. In this worrying international environment, many of our own African leaders are tempted to revert to the bad old days. So let me be very clear about this. Democracy is crucial for Africa's progress. In fact, as the title of this lecture suggests, democracy is a prerequisite for Africa's progress. Some still argue that enlightened authoritarian leadership is more conducive to economic development, drawing on a familiar but a short list of examples. The short list is because enlightened leaders are few and far between, whether in democratic or authoritarian systems. But when you entrust all power to one person, and he or she proves not to be as enlightened as you had hoped, can you hold that leader to account or get him or her out of the office? And I must say it's often he. They are the ones who create our problems. Even strong men who start out with good intentions seldom keep them. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as Lord Acton pointed out. Africa knows this from experience. After a promising start at independence, most of the continent suffered under incompetent dictatorships for decades. The result was not only a dismal economic record, but also widespread human rights abuses, egregious corruption, and absence of rule of law. In fact, the evidence suggests that by and large, democracy is conducive to economic development. Professor Amartya Sen famously made the point that the academic debate on the relative merits of authoritarianism and dictatorship for economic growth obfuscates the fact that democracy is progress in and of itself, because freedom is development too. Ghana has thrived under democracy since it was reintroduced, and our society, as well as our economy, has thrived as a result. We must never stop reminding ourselves of that fact. Yes, our country has its problems, but all countries have problems. But democracies always tend to look worse than they are, because the media and civil society magnify their problems, whereas dictatorships suppress information about their problems. In the long run, however, criticism and public debate should lead to reform, which makes democracies resilient, while dictatorships are fundamentally brittle. This reminds me of Aesop's fable of the oak and the reed. The oak looks strong, but cannot bend, and so it gets knocked over by a storm. Whereas the reed looks weak, but because it can bend with the wind, it survives the storm. Today, almost every leader claims to govern by democratic principles, and governments organize periodic elections, most of which are open and fair. But there are many leaders and regimes who manipulate the system to make sure they win. In other words, rather than impose their rule through brute force, These leaders are tempted to subvert the legal and democratic framework. It is ruled by law rather than rule of law. Regimes have developed a multitude of methods, some more subtle than others, to ensure that the level playing fields are limited to sports competitions only. This may work in the short run, but it is a dangerous strategy in the long run, for democracies without credible elections are no democracies at all. As such, they cannot provide societies with the feedback loops and resilience that characterize genuine democracy. We must remember that elections are a mechanism for the arbitration of political rivalries and peaceful and democratic rotation of leadership. If political rivals and their supporters do not believe the electoral process to be free and fair, then they will ultimately resort to less peaceful means to change political direction. We must not let the street take the place of the ballot box, but that requires credible elections. For elections to be credible, it will have to meet three criteria: inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, to build confidence amongst the electorates and to earn the trust of the public.
Well, there's more to that speech, and stay tuned to Joy News. We'll be bringing you that speech in its entirety. Now, they toil with their husband to acquire property and wealth, but sometimes they lose it all when their husbands pass on. In some cases, widows in Ghana suffer abuse from their husbands' families, and years of suffering to raise their children all by themselves. As the world marks International Widows' Day today, June 23, Joy News' Upper East correspondent Abesori spent some time talking to some widows and came through with this report.
Grace Assa's husband died 15 years ago, leaving her and 4 children behind. Grace recounts she refused to drink some concoctions as part of widowhood rites because it was against her Christian beliefs. Her husband's family abandoned her because of that.
They threatened to send me packing back to my father's house because to them it was unacceptable for me to refuse to perform the traditional rite as part of my husband's funeral. I stood my ground and they left me alone. But when the funeral was over, I was left all alone and it became so difficult for me to cater for my 4 children.
Grace had a female goat which she was rearing with the hope that it would reproduce and give her a source of income. But her husband's brothers forcefully took the goat from her and used it for sacrifice. They also took her husband's farmland, claiming it belonged to the family. The family left her with just a small piece of the land on which she now farms to feed her children. Just like Grace, Baboma lost her husband 15 years ago. They had 6 children and Baboma was left to her fate to cater for them alone. She spent time working at the Galamsey mines, carrying loads and doing other menial jobs. Baboma now sells kinky to take care of her 6 children.
When your husband dies, they tell you to choose another man within the family to become your husband. When you refuse, they will keep pestering you, and if you hold your ground, they will leave you alone but never decide to help you in any way. Anytime you have a problem, like I'm struggling now to see my child through school, they won't help you simply because you refuse to give in to their advances.
What Grace and Baboma went through when their husbands died 15 years ago may look like old traditional practices, but the situation has not changed much. Patience Apalazoya's husband died only 3 years ago, and her story is worst. Just 3 days after the husband's death, her brothers-in-law came in and took documents of all his properties, including a house and a car. At the time of putting together this feature, Patience was still fighting to reclaim her husband's properties in court.
It was when I joined the Widows and Orphans movement that I got to know that other several widows were facing problems like mine. I used to think I was alone and I could not even eat properly, but I soon learned that other widows were facing worse situations than mine.
There are currently about 11,000 widows registered with the Widows and Orphans movement in the 3 northern regions. Grace, Baboma and Patience, who have just shared their stories, are some of these widows being protected and empowered by the Widows and Orphans movement. Fati Abigail Abdullahi is director of the Widows and Orphans movement.
Widows have lost their property that they've worked for with their husbands whilst they were alive, and then they've had to lose them because there was no will, and the traditional system had to play where the relatives of the deceased will have to inherit the property, more so his brothers, and then they would have to inherit the property along with the woman. So yes, for this year, these are some of the cases we've had. But again, we promote economic empowerment of widows because
Up next, we bring you entertainment.
the abuses are...
Well, and here with all the gossip, entertainment gossip, is Ms. G. Good evening to you.
Good
Ms.
evening,
G.
and today we are starting off with a gossip. So Dr. Kula is in the news. Remember Dr. Kula?
No.
Okay, I didn't even say good evening to you. How are you doing, Israel?
I'm well.
Okay, so back to Dr. Kula. The man who accused his wife of sleeping with Van Vika
Okay.
takes a U-turn.
Says what? He never said that.
Misguided, you know, jealousy, and blah, 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 blah. He needs a slap. No, he definitely needs one.
How come you come out and say all that and then you turn around and say...
Tell everybody that, you know, the media rather misinterpreted all that you had said and that you didn't mean to say that your wife was sleeping with Van Vika. You don't even have videos and pictures like you told us that you had. And this is a man who didn't grant an interview. He went on social media posting his case. And all of a sudden writes another statement and posts on his Facebook page and say, I am sorry, but I didn't mean it the way it was taken. My wife is not sleeping with Van Vika. It was written out of jealousy. And this is just a professionalism between the two people, you know, my wife and Van Vika. Where did he sleep?
Okay.
And where did he wake up?
Well, for all you know, his account has been hacked.
He didn't say that one.
Well, as it is now, I mean, this new
It's
one
the
that
same
he's
account
posted.
he's posting this with. That's the reason I don't think anybody should take him serious.
Okay.
Because in the next few months, I tell you, he'll come back and say, oh, I was either forced by people to say that, oh, my wife was not sleeping. No, I can't even imagine a doctor of his caliber.
I think what we should do would be to, meet him and have a one-on-one.
The man is far away in the US of A. How do we meet him?
Be able to reach him
and he's not even granting interviews. That's the annoying part of it. Everything he refers you back to his page, you know. But I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Anyway, well, probably we should just leave him.
Yes, let's leave him. And Dr. Kula, the next time you say anything, I am not reporting because I don't believe you anymore. Anyway, let's go to, have you heard the song Mahama Paper?
Yeah.
You've heard Mahama Paper?
Mahama Paper, the paper.
You're always offbeat. Why?
Am I always offbeat?
Always
Not always
offbeat.
No.
Okay, try again.
I can sing Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir.
Oh, you make me laugh because yesterday or a day before, I gave you all the opportunity you could get.
I'm amazed that you love me. That wasn't offbeat.
No, that one was your own rhythm.
Okay, Mama Paper, 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 Mama Paper. Okay,
what else?
Let's go on.
You know, President Mahama always has his way around things. At this particular time I sit with you, I'm asking whether the man really understands Ghana. If he doesn't, and then he needs to go for some Ghana lessons because, you know, yesterday he was in Tema and he said that, okay, I need to tell you.
Tema this morning, and we're walking from the palace to these grounds. I learned a new song.
were playing Mahama Paper. It's the first time. But I was trying to wonder what the Mahama Paper was about. And I remember that one of the times during the ECOWAS summit, my page 13 was missing. And so I was asking where my paper is. I'm sure that is what he used to sing the song. But I want to thank Shatta very much, because Shatta don't come like Kakai.
Of the song that says, Mina hona hey, Mina hona hey.
In essence, you feel that the song disses Mahama.
Exactly.
So
I'm
you shouldn't be excited about the song.
Exactly my point. So he needs to go for gun lessons. Now you get the point.
No, but I think he was just making fun of the song and taking the song and running with it. So I think his interpretation of the song is likely to be taken more seriously than what anybody has said. Because lots of people don't
President
understand.
John Mahama once again proves that he's a communicator. You know, I never thought of this when the song was released. I was almost I always concentrated on the part, but
he just decided to spin the whole thing in his
no, he hasn't. No, not for me, because definitely that portion of the song remains.
He wasn't trying to spin you. So he's trying to spin somebody else, and
somebody
he's
else
been
who
successful
doesn't
at that.
also understand gun lessons, maybe, or hasn't taken gun lessons, maybe. Anyway, but you have more details about the ABN launch.
Oh yeah. So ABN Radio. So ABN Radio is we have ABN TV, and ABN TV takes the news. Joy News Prime and some other bulletins, and they rebroadcast it in the UK and across Europe. So they've also set up ABN Radio, and ABN Radio also takes some of our news. So the 6 a.m. bulletin is also heard live on ABN Radio, and essentially they've set it up and they launched it, and they're telling us essentially how big it is and how proud they are that they've been able to do a thing like that, and for us, because they are partners, we're excited about the development, and we believe that it would enhance whatever cooperation and collaboration we have.
Yes. Exactly. So there's more for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are London's Afropolitan radio station. So, ladies and gentlemen, who then is the Afropolitan? It is you, and me. And that is the people we are targeting. In the whole of the UK, the Afropolitan people constitute 3 million. And these are the people we are targeting. What do we mean by that? What simply it means is that the Afrocentric nature, or the explanation about it, is that we are here to concentrate on the African people, but not just that, but we are also here with a cosmopolitan appeal. We want somebody to tune into ABN Radio and to be able to listen to us and enjoy us.
Yeah, we just want to say a massive thank you to all of you, especially ABN and The Voice, for promoting us when we were on the...
All right, so the event itself was graced by some dignity. You actually realize there were some VIPs there, and Reggie and Boli.
Yeah, they were thanking.
They were also
actually saying thanks to ABN for all the support during the time at X Factor. Yes, that's true. That's true.
Right, so it looked like a really big event, and we're excited that we have another partner on board, which means that we can enhance our collaboration.
Exactly, and more of our content.
And yes, if you get to go to the UK sometime, you can go on ABN Radio.
Oh, hi ABN Radio,
and talk to them and dazzle them.
I'm coming soon like Kakai. All right, okay. So, are you a lover of jazz music?
Yes.
Okay, so this weekend is your weekend then, because Bob James is in town. You know, Bob James is a legend when it comes to jazz music, and he's in town. But you know, one of the things we are concerned about is the fact that jazz is for the upper class. When will though I love jazz music to some extent, I won't place it above dancehall and hip life and all that, though, when will I be convinced that this is the music for someone like me?
As more of your money comes.
Oh, that's sad. But Bob James says he can't be bothered.
I don't really mind that concept, because I think young people need to explore all kinds of things. The broader range of things that you listen to and read and learn about, that's really great. And if jazz music becomes something that you grow into when you begin to appreciate the subtleties and the lifetime and the history and all that, I think that's kind of a good progress. In recent years, we have had the benefit of having our music sampled sometimes, so that even the young hip-hop fans can hear little chunks of it in these loops and samples that in some cases I've been able to talk to these young kids and they get intrigued. Like,
okay, so music for the upper class, definitely. But before I leave, or just before I go, let's talk about Kwaku Menu. Kwaku Menu is a Kuma Hood actor, we all know, but he has a latest version of E40's Choices.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, he does. And this time around, I'm excited.
After Lil Wayne,
Kwaku Menu comes. I'm excited because this version features multimedia, and I thought to find out from Kwaku Menu, why do you mention multimedia in your very first verse?
Nope. Yep.
Where your Kwaku Menu Choices?
Nope.
I'm in love it.
Yep.
I kiss you.
Nope.
Popu Sika.
Yep.
Shut up, my qua.
Nope. Frank Lucas. Yep.
Many multimedia was them.
Nope.
A
lot of people are speaking about me having issues with multimedia. No, there is nothing like that. With all due respect, Kwesi Twum is my dad. With multimedia, I've been on all the platforms. I'm not even on their payroll. But I'm family, so I can't have any issues with multimedia. I can't.
No.
Yep.
Travelism.
Nope.
Yetuma do Ghana home.
Yep.
Kwaku Menu Ghana wood.
Nope.
Kuma wood.
Yep.
Musili we your fresh.
Nope.
Kwaku Menu.
Yep.
Akrobato.
Nope.
Nehunuso.
Yep.
Chewa.
Nope.
Nanama.
Yep.
Kwaku Menu timida no wo.
Nope.
Obini.
Yep.
Wayedebolo.
Nope.
Anasamusko.
Yep.
Najela muvuni yeto.
Nope.
Kumasi diano.
Yep.
Musimajid.
Nope.
Kwaku Menu.
Yep.
So that's the latest version of the choices.
No. So now we don't know who next is going to come
I
up with
tell you,
that.
the next time we're going to hear Andy Dusty and then CP.
Well, if Andy Dusty comes up with some choices, yeah, we would understand. But now I'm saying that it appears that the Kumewood actors...
No, now it's going to be Joy News presenters, starting from you, Israel. I'll come and do the yes, nope for you. So get your lyrics ready, because soon we'll be having our... Oh, Gary is going to be backing us, you know. So before you know it, we have multimedia choices.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so there'll be more entertainment for you tomorrow, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. G. Up next, Gary, who's supposed to be backing us in our choices, he's coming up next with sports.
Entertainment news.